Good evening. I'm David Hale, and we are interrupting all scheduled programming to bring you breaking news of the gravest magnitude. What we are about to report has not been confirmed in its entirety, but multiple intelligence sources across 3 continents are now converging on the same terrible conclusion.
Approximately 17 minutes ago at 9:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, satellite tracking systems detected the launch of multiple intercontinental ballistic missiles from silos in the Ural Mountain region of the Eastern Federation. Within moments, counter-launches were detected from installations in North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. We are now receiving reports of additional launches from naval vessels in the North Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be absolutely clear about what I am telling you. The scenario that military strategists have feared for 8 decades appears to be unfolding in real time. We are witnessing what appears to be the opening exchange of a global thermonuclear conflict. The missiles currently in flight have estimated arrival times ranging from 22 to 38 minutes, depending on their trajectories and targets.
I'm Sarah Donovan, and I have to tell you, in my 23 years of broadcast journalism, I never imagined I would be sitting here delivering this kind of news to you and your families. Right now, across this country and around the world, people are waking up their children, calling their loved ones, and trying to make sense of what is happening. If you are just joining us, please understand that this is not a test. This is not a drill. This is not a movie. What we are witnessing right now is the beginning of what military officials have long called the unthinkable. In the minutes and hours ahead, David and I will do everything in our power to bring you accurate, verified information. We will not speculate. We will not sensationalize. We will tell you what we know when we know it. But I also want you to know that we are human beings sitting in the studio, just like you are sitting in your homes, and we are processing this together.
Let me give you the tactical picture as we understand it at this moment. According to tracking data being shared by NORAD and corroborated by independent monitoring stations in Europe, there are currently an estimated 147 missiles in flight. That number has been increasing over the past several minutes as additional launches are detected. The initial salvo from the Eastern Federation consisted of approximately 64 missiles launched from 7 different locations. The response from North American Strategic Command consisted of 42 missiles launched within 3 minutes of detection. We are now seeing secondary launches from what appear to be submarine-based platforms in multiple ocean theaters. The flight time for an ICBM from the Ural region to the eastern seaboard of the United States is approximately 31 minutes. From current trajectory analysis, it appears that major population centers are among the targeted coordinates. I must stress that while this data is coming from reliable military sources, the fog of war is very real, and numbers may change as the situation develops.
We are receiving reports that cell phone networks across the eastern seaboard are becoming overwhelmed. If you are having difficulty reaching your loved ones, please know that this is not because anything has happened to them yet. The sheer volume of calls being placed simultaneously is exceeding network capacity. We are also getting initial reports of highway congestion around major metropolitan areas as people attempt to evacuate, though at this point, with flight times measured in minutes rather than hours, military analysts are advising that sheltering in place may be the safer option for most civilians. I'm reading right now from a statement that was just released by emergency management officials, and it says, quote, "Citizens in targeted areas should seek immediate shelter in basements or interior rooms on the lowest floor of sturdy buildings. If you have access to a fallout shelter, proceed there immediately, close all windows and doors, turn off ventilation systems, await further instructions via emergency broadcast," end quote.
We're now approximately 24 minutes into this crisis, and I want to provide some additional context about what we're observing. The Eastern Federation's initial strike appears to have been preceded by a cyber attack on early warning systems, which is why there was a delay of several minutes before launches were confirmed. This is consistent with doctrine that has been theorized but never observed in actual conflict. The targeting pattern suggests a combination of counterforce strikes aimed at military installations and counter-value strikes aimed at population centers. In military terminology, this indicates an intent to both degrade retaliatory capability and inflict maximum civilian casualties. We are seeing missile tracks that appear to be heading toward Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, and several other major metropolitan areas. Similar targeting appears to be occurring in reverse, with American missiles tracking toward Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, and other major cities in the Eastern Federation.
I'm going to read some of the messages that are coming in from our viewers right now because I think it's important that we hear from the people who are living through this moment. Melissa from Baltimore writes, quote, "My husband is deployed overseas and I can't reach him. I have 3 children under the age of 10 and I don't know what to tell them. Please, if there's any hope, any chance this isn't what it looks like, please tell us," end quote. Melissa, I wish I could offer you certainty right now, but what I can tell you is that you are not alone. Millions of families across this country are holding each other right now, just as you are holding your children. James from Atlanta writes, quote, "I served 2 tours in Iraq and I thought I understood war. Nothing prepared me for sitting in my living room watching the end of everything," end quote. James, your service to this country matters, your experience matters, and your voice reaching out to us right now matters.
We are receiving our first reports of impact. At approximately 10:07 p.m. Eastern Time, a thermonuclear warhead estimated at 800 kilotons detonated over the North Sea, approximately 120 miles east of the Scottish coast. It is unclear at this time whether this was an intentional target or a malfunction, but seismic monitoring stations across northern Europe have confirmed the detonation. This is the first nuclear weapon to be detonated in anger since Nagasaki in 1945. Within the next 10 to 15 minutes, we expect to see the first detonations over continental targets. I want to prepare you for what that will mean. A single 800 kiloton warhead, which is roughly 50 times more powerful than the weapon dropped on Hiroshima, will create a fireball approximately 1.5 miles in diameter. Everything within that radius will be vaporized instantly. The blast wave will destroy all structures within a radius of approximately 4 miles. Severe damage and fires will extend to approximately 8 miles. Radioactive fallout will spread based on wind patterns and could affect populations hundreds of miles downwind.
We've just lost contact with our affiliate station in Norfolk, Virginia. We're being told that this may be due to electromagnetic pulse effects from the detonation over the North Sea, which could have disrupted satellite communications in certain areas. We want to emphasize that this does not necessarily mean that anything has happened in Norfolk. EMP effects can knock out communications infrastructure even at great distances from a detonation. However, given that Norfolk is home to the largest naval base in the United States, it is also a likely target. We are working to reestablish contact and we'll bring you updates as soon as we have them. In the meantime, I'm seeing images coming in from Stockholm where civilians are streaming into the subway system, which has been designated as an emergency shelter. The scenes are remarkable. People are carrying babies, helping elderly neighbors, moving with urgency, but also with a kind of determined calm.
It is now 10:14 p.m. Eastern Time, approximately 31 minutes since the first launches were detected. We are receiving confirmed reports of multiple detonations over the continental United States. I'm going to read these as they come in, and I want to warn you that this information is going to be difficult to hear. Washington, D.C. was struck by what appears to be at least 2 warheads at 10:12 p.m. Initial estimates suggest total destruction of the National Mall area and severe damage extending into northern Virginia and southern Maryland. We have lost contact with all government communications coming from the Capitol. The succession protocol has been activated, though we do not yet know who is in command. New York City has been struck by at least 1 warhead detonating over Manhattan. We have no detailed information about the extent of damage. Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, and Denver have all reported detonations within the past 3 minutes. The number of Americans killed in the past 60 seconds is almost certainly measured in the millions.
I need to take a moment here. I need to take just a moment because what David just reported represents more death and destruction than this country has seen in its entire history, and it happened in the time it would take to make a cup of coffee. We are receiving reports now that the emergency broadcast system is activating across all channels. If you have access to a radio, please turn it on. If you have a battery-powered radio, that may be your most reliable source of information in the hours ahead, as electrical infrastructure is likely to be affected by both direct damage and EMP effects. We are being told that the president or whoever is now in command under the succession protocol has been evacuated to an airborne command post, but we have no confirmation of this. The government that has led this nation for nearly 250 years may no longer exist in any recognizable form.
Let me provide an update on the international situation, because this is not just an American crisis. This is a global catastrophe. We are receiving reports of detonations over London, which appears to have been struck by at least one warhead at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time or 3:15 a.m. local time. Paris has been struck. Berlin has been struck. Initial reports suggest that the death toll in Western Europe alone may already exceed 20 million people. In the Eastern Federation, American and Allied missiles are now reaching their targets. Moscow has been struck by multiple warheads. The historic city of St. Petersburg, home to the Hermitage and to 5 million people, is believed to have been destroyed. We are seeing what military strategists call a full exchange, meaning that both sides are emptying their arsenals in the belief that any weapons not launched will be destroyed by incoming strikes. The total nuclear yield being released in this exchange is estimated to be in excess of 5,000 megatons, which is equivalent to 330,000 Hiroshima bombs.
We're now 45 minutes into this crisis, and I want to share some of what we're hearing from people on the ground who are still able to communicate. A viewer named Patricia in rural Pennsylvania writes, quote, "I can see a glow on the horizon to the east that I know is Philadelphia. I've been praying for the past half hour, but I don't know if anyone is listening anymore," end quote. Patricia, if you can hear me, keep praying, keep hoping. What you're doing right now, reaching out to connect with other human beings, that matters. That matters more than you know. Michael in San Diego writes, quote, "The flash was so bright we could see it through closed blinds. The windows shook but didn't break. We're filling the bathtub with water like they told us to do. Is that going to help?" End quote. Michael, yes. Fill every container you can with clean water. Stay inside. Stay away from windows. What you're doing could save your family's life.
We are now 1 hour into this crisis, and I want to give you an assessment of what has happened and what we believe is still to come. In the past 60 minutes, approximately 400 nuclear warheads have been detonated across the Northern Hemisphere. Major cities in the United States, Canada, Western Europe, and the Eastern Federation have been destroyed or severely damaged. Conservative estimates place the death toll at approximately 80 million people, with that number expected to rise dramatically in the coming hours as fires spread, radiation sickness sets in, and emergency services prove unable to cope with the scale of destruction. The global telecommunications network has been severely degraded. We are only able to broadcast because our studio is located in an area that has not been directly targeted, and because we are running on backup power with hardened transmission equipment. Many other media outlets are no longer operational.
I want to take a moment to address something that I know many of you are feeling right now. In the face of destruction on this scale, it can feel like nothing matters anymore. It can feel like hope itself has been vaporized along with our cities. But I want to tell you that I refuse to believe that. In the messages we're receiving, in the stories we're hearing, I see human beings who are helping their neighbors. I see parents who are comforting their children. I see strangers who are sharing food and shelter and water with people they've never met before. That is who we are. That is who we have always been. The bombs can destroy our buildings and our bridges, but they cannot destroy what makes us human unless we let them. I know that sounds like empty comfort right now, but I believe it with everything I have. And
we are now receiving more detailed information about the damage in specific areas. Let me run through what we know. In the New York metropolitan area, the primary warhead appears to have detonated at an altitude of approximately 2,000 feet over Midtown Manhattan. This is what's known as an airburst, designed to maximize blast damage over a wide area. Everything south of Central Park and north of the financial district has been completely destroyed. The death toll in New York City alone is estimated at between 4 and 6 million people. Fires are burning across Brooklyn, Queens, and northern New Jersey. The George Washington Bridge and the Lincoln and Holland tunnels have been destroyed. Manhattan is no longer accessible by land. The survivors, if there are any in the outer areas, are trapped on an island of rubble and fire.
We've just received word that we're going to be able to speak with someone who has direct knowledge of the medical situation on the ground. Dr. Rebecca Morrison is an emergency physician who was on duty at a hospital in Allentown, Pennsylvania, when the attacks began. Dr. Morrison, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I have maybe 5 minutes before I have to get back, so I'll talk fast.
Doctor, tell us what you're seeing there.
We are about 60 miles from where Philadelphia used to be. In the past 30 minutes, we have received over 2,000 patients, and more are arriving every minute. Many of them have severe burns. Many have traumatic injuries from flying debris. But the ones who worry me most are the ones who look fine right now, but who were close enough to the blast to receive lethal doses of radiation. They'll start showing symptoms in a few hours, and there is nothing we can do for them. Nothing. We don't have the capacity for this. No hospital in the world has the capacity for this. I've been doing emergency medicine for 18 years, and I have never felt so completely helpless in my life.
Dr. Morrison, can you tell us about medical supply levels? Are you able to treat the patients you're receiving?
We ran out of morphine 40 minutes ago. We're rationing antibiotics. We have maybe 6 hours of diesel left for our backup generators, and after that, everyone on a ventilator dies. The highways are clogged with refugees, so no supplies are getting through. I've had to make decisions in the past hour that I never thought I would have to make. Triage decisions, who lives and who dies decisions. These are things they teach you in medical school, but you never really believe you'll have to do. I've been doing them all night.
Dr. Morrison, is there anything you want to say to people out there who are trying to help or who are looking for their loved ones?
Stay where you are if you can. The roads are death traps right now. If you have medical training, find your local emergency shelter and offer your help. If you have water or food or gasoline, share it with your neighbors. And if you're looking for someone who was in Philadelphia or any of the other cities that were hit, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but you should prepare yourself for the worst. I have to go now. I have to go.
Dr. Morrison, thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and thank you for everything you're doing tonight. We are now approximately 90 minutes into this crisis, and I want to update you on what we're learning about the global scope of this catastrophe. In addition to the strikes I've already mentioned, we are now receiving reports of nuclear detonations in Tokyo, which was struck by 2 warheads approximately 20 minutes ago. The death toll there is estimated at between 8 and 12 million people. Seoul has been struck. Beijing has been struck, apparently by missiles from the Eastern Federation that went off course or were deliberately targeted at what was supposed to be a non-combatant nation. The government of the Asian Republic is now reporting that it is entering the conflict in retaliation. This means that the war is spreading. What began as an exchange between 2 nuclear powers is now drawing in others.
I'm reading a message now from Thomas in Miami who writes, quote, "We weren't hit, but we can see the glow from where Tampa used to be. My wife and I have been married for 42 years, and we're sitting on our back porch, holding hands and watching the sky. Whatever happens next, we're together," end quote. Thomas, hold on to that. Hold on to her. That's what matters now. Sandra from outside Boston writes, quote, "I can hear the fires from here. It sounds like the world is breathing wrong," end quote. Sandra, I don't know what to say to that except that I hear you, and I want you to know that your words are reaching people.
Let me give you an update on what we know about the situation in Washington, D.C. According to sources within the continuity of government apparatus, the initial strike on the Capitol killed the president, the vice president, and the majority of the cabinet who were in the city at the time. The Speaker of the House was confirmed dead approximately 45 minutes ago. The President pro tempore of the Senate is believed to have survived and is currently being transported to a secure location. If this information is accurate, Senator Helen Chambers of Nevada is now the acting President of the United States. We have not received any official communication from her administration, and it is unclear whether the command and control infrastructure necessary to conduct the war still exists. The Pentagon has been destroyed. NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain facility is believed to be intact, but communications with that facility have been sporadic.
We are now 2 hours into this crisis. 2 hours since the first missiles were launched. 2 hours since the world changed forever. I want to pause for a moment and reflect on what that means. 2 hours ago, 8 billion people were going about their lives on this planet. They were sleeping, eating dinner, going to work, watching television, making love, having arguments, helping their children with homework. And then, in the span of minutes, hundreds of millions of those people were killed, not in some distant war, not in some abstract conflict, but in their homes, in their offices, in their beds. Children who never heard of the Eastern Federation or understood what geopolitics meant were burned alive because adults could not find a way to resolve their differences without resorting to mass murder. I don't know how we process that. I don't know if we ever will.
I want to provide some technical information that may be relevant to those of you who are trying to protect yourselves and your families. The immediate effects of a nuclear detonation include the blast wave, thermal radiation, and initial nuclear radiation. If you survive those effects, your next concern is radioactive fallout. Fallout consists of debris that has been irradiated by the nuclear explosion and is now falling back to Earth. It can travel hundreds of miles on the wind, and exposure to it can cause radiation sickness and death. The most dangerous fallout particles are heavy and fall to the ground within the first few hours. Lighter particles can remain aloft for days or weeks. If you are in an area that may receive fallout, the most important thing you can do is put as much mass as possible between yourself and the outside environment. Every inch of concrete, every foot of earth reduces your radiation exposure. Stay inside for at least 48 hours if possible, longer if you can manage it.
We're receiving reports now of mass movements of refugees across North America and Europe. Highways leading away from destroyed cities are clogged with vehicles that have run out of fuel or been abandoned. Pedestrians are walking along the shoulders of roads, carrying what few possessions they could grab. Some of these people are injured, some are in shock. Many don't know where they're going. They only know they have to get away from the fire and the radiation. We're hearing accounts of extraordinary kindness, people opening their homes to strangers, churches and schools being converted into emergency shelters, farmers driving trucks full of food and water into refugee camps. But we're also hearing accounts of violence, looting, fights over gasoline, people being robbed at gunpoint for their supplies. The thin veneer of civilization is cracking under the pressure of this catastrophe.
We're now approximately 2.5 hours into this crisis, and I want to give you an updated assessment of the casualty figures. Based on the best available information from government sources and our own analysis, we believe that approximately 150 million people have been killed in the direct effects of nuclear detonations around the world. This includes approximately 40 million in the United States, 30 million in the Eastern Federation, 25 million in Western Europe, and 55 million in Asia. These numbers do not include those who will die in the coming days and weeks from radiation exposure, burns, injuries, starvation, disease, or violence. When those factors are taken into account, the eventual death toll could be several times higher. We are witnessing the greatest catastrophe in human history. Nothing in our past, not the Black Death, not the World Wars, not any natural disaster, comes close to what has happened tonight.
I'm going to read another viewer message. This one is from Maria in Tucson, and she writes, quote, "My daughter is 17 years old, and she keeps asking me if there's going to be a tomorrow. I don't know what to tell her. I've always told her the truth, but I don't know if the truth is something anyone can handle right now," end quote. Maria, I'm not sure anyone can answer that question with certainty right now. What I can tell you is that your daughter is lucky to have a mother who cares about her enough to wrestle with that question. Tell her that there have been dark times in human history before and that people survive them. Tell her that love exists even in the darkness. Tell her that you're going to face whatever comes together.
We're now receiving some additional information about the military situation. According to sources within what remains of the command structure, the initial exchange appears to be winding down. Both sides have exhausted their land-based ICBM arsenals, and while submarine-launched missiles are still being detected, the rate of launches has decreased significantly over the past hour. This does not mean the war is over. Significant conventional military forces still exist on both sides, and there are reports of fighting along the borders of allied nations in Eastern Europe and Asia. But the nuclear phase of the conflict may be nearing its end, at least for now. The question now is what kind of world will emerge from the rubble, and whether there is any political or military leadership left to negotiate some kind of ceasefire.
We've just received word that the acting president, Senator Helen Chambers, is going to be making a statement via emergency broadcast in approximately 30 minutes. This will be the first official communication from the United States government since the attacks began. We will carry that statement live when it happens. In the meantime, I want to share something that I think is important. About an hour ago, our producers managed to establish contact with a priest in a small town in Nebraska who has been sheltering refugees from Omaha, which was struck earlier tonight. He told us that his church has taken in over 300 people and that they're using the pews as beds and the altar as a triage station. He said that in his entire ministry, he has never seen such suffering, but he has also never seen such compassion. People are taking care of each other, he said. That's what we do when everything else is taken away. We take care of each other.
It is now 3 hours since the first launches were detected. Let me give you a comprehensive summary of what we know at this point. Nuclear weapons have been detonated in the following countries: the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Poland, the Eastern Federation, Japan, South Korea, and several others. Major cities that have been destroyed or severely damaged include New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Antonio, Dallas, San Diego, San Jose, Boston, Seattle, Denver, Nashville, Baltimore, Portland, and Miami in the United States. In other countries, London, Paris, Berlin, Warsaw, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, Tokyo, Osaka, Seoul, and many others have been struck. The total death toll is now estimated to exceed 200 million and is rising rapidly.
I want to take a moment to talk about something that I think is on many people's minds right now, the question of why. Why did this happen? How did we get here? I don't have a complete answer to that question, and I suspect historians will be debating it for generations, if there are generations to come. What I can tell you is that tensions had been rising for years. The territorial disputes, the proxy conflicts, the cyber attacks and counterattacks, the mutual suspicion and the breakdown of diplomatic channels, each side convinced that the other was acting in bad faith, each side accumulating weapons and preparing for the worst while hoping it would never come. And then tonight something went wrong, a miscalculation, a misinterpreted signal, a decision made in fear or anger by someone with their finger on the button. And now here we are, sitting in the ashes of everything we built.
We are now receiving reports of the situation in the Eastern Federation, and I want to share what we're learning. According to monitoring stations in neutral countries, approximately 30 American and Allied warheads struck targets in the Eastern Federation. The capital, Moscow, was hit by at least 4 warheads and has been completely destroyed. The Kremlin, the seat of government for centuries, no longer exists. We have no information about the fate of President Volkov or other senior government officials. Command and control appears to have devolved to regional military commanders, and there are unconfirmed reports of internal conflict about whether to continue the war or seek an immediate ceasefire. The Eastern Federation military is estimated to have suffered approximately 70% casualties among its strategic forces, but significant conventional forces remain operational along its western border.
It's now 3 hours and 45 minutes into this crisis, and we're approaching the time when we expect to hear from Acting President Chambers. While we wait for that statement, I want to share more messages from our viewers because I think these voices need to be heard. Robert from outside Cleveland writes, quote, I'm a veteran and I spent my whole career training for this scenario. I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. No one can be prepared for this. All those drills, all those exercises, they don't mean anything when it's real, end quote. Robert, thank you for your service and thank you for your honesty. Lisa from rural Georgia writes, quote, the power just went out, but I can still hear you on my battery radio. Please don't stop broadcasting. Your voices are the only thing keeping me sane right now, end quote. Lisa, we're not going anywhere. As long as we have power and equipment and breath in our bodies, we will be here.
I want to provide some information about what we know regarding the infrastructure situation across the United States. Based on reports from emergency management officials and our own affiliates who are still able to communicate, the electrical grid has failed across approximately 60% of the country. The primary causes are EMP effects from nuclear detonations, physical damage to power plants and transmission lines, and the loss of control systems due to cyber attacks that preceded the physical attacks. In areas where power is still available, it is expected to fail within the next several hours as fuel supplies for backup generators run out. Water systems are similarly affected, with major treatment plants offline in most urban areas. Communication networks are operating at severely reduced capacity. The internet as a functional global network may no longer exist.
We've just received word that Acting President Chambers is about to make her statement. I want to remind everyone that this is the first we've heard from our government since the attacks began. We don't know what she's going to say. We don't know what options are available to her. But whatever happens in the next few minutes, I hope you'll listen with open hearts and minds. This woman has been thrust into the most impossible situation in human history, and whatever decisions she makes will affect not just Americans, but everyone left alive on this planet.
We're now playing the recorded statement from Acting President Helen Chambers. This was recorded approximately 15 minutes ago at an undisclosed location.
I'm reading the transcript now as we're experiencing technical difficulties with the audio. Acting President Chambers said, quote, my fellow Americans and citizens of the world, tonight we have witnessed the unthinkable. Nuclear weapons have been used on a scale never before seen in human history. Cities that stood for centuries have been reduced to ash. Millions of lives have been extinguished in the blink of an eye. I speak to you now not just as the acting president of the United States, but as a fellow human being who shares your grief, your fear, and your determination to survive. I want you to know that the United States military has stood down its offensive operations. I have ordered all remaining nuclear forces to a defensive posture only. I have authorized emergency communications with what remains of the Eastern Federation government to explore the possibility of an immediate ceasefire. The fighting must stop. It must stop now before there is nothing left to fight for, end quote.
The statement continues, quote, in the hours and days ahead, the focus of this government will be on three priorities. First, search and rescue operations in affected areas. Second, the distribution of emergency supplies to survivors. Third, the maintenance of civil order during this unprecedented crisis. I am invoking emergency powers to mobilize all available resources for these purposes. I am calling on every American who is able to help your neighbors, to share your resources, to show the compassion and courage that has always defined us as a people. I am also appealing to the international community for assistance. Whatever our differences in the past, we are now united by a common catastrophe. Only by working together can we hope to survive it. May God have mercy on us all, end quote.
That was Acting President Helen Chambers with the first official statement from the United States government since the attacks began approximately 4 hours ago. David, what's your assessment of what we just heard?
Several things stand out to me. First, the announcement of a stand-down of offensive operations is significant. It suggests that whoever is in command of our nuclear forces still has the ability to communicate with them, and that those forces are willing to follow orders from a civilian authority, that's crucial for any ceasefire negotiations. Second, the mention of emergency communications with the Eastern Federation suggests that some diplomatic channels are still open, which is more than many analysts expected at this point. Third, the invocation of emergency powers is constitutionally complex, but in a situation like this, constitutional niceties may be secondary to basic survival. Fourth, and most importantly, there was no indication that the Eastern Federation has agreed to a ceasefire. Until both sides stand down, the danger of additional nuclear exchanges remains very real.
We're now 4.5 hours into this crisis. I want to take a moment to acknowledge something that I think has been weighing on many of us. Throughout this broadcast, David and I have been talking about numbers. 200 million dead, 400 warheads, 60% of the power grid down. These numbers are necessary because they help us understand the scope of what has happened. But I want to be clear that each of those numbers represents individual human beings. Each of those 200 million people had a name, a face, dreams, fears, people who loved them. A child in Tokyo who wanted to be an astronaut. A grandmother in London who baked the best apple pie in her neighborhood. A young man in Moscow who was saving up to buy a ring for his girlfriend. They're all gone now, reduced to numbers in a broadcast that will be remembered, if it's remembered at all, as the chronicle of humanity's darkest hour.
We're receiving additional reports on the situation around the world. Let me update you on several key developments. In Western Europe, the governments of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom appear to have been decapitated by the attacks on their capitals. Emergency protocols have activated in all three countries, with regional authorities attempting to maintain order and coordinate relief efforts. NATO command structures are in disarray, with many headquarters destroyed and communication links severed. In Asia, the government of Japan has issued a statement condemning what it calls the unconscionable attack on civilian populations and announcing that it will not retaliate despite having the technical capability to do so. This is a significant decision that may help prevent further escalation. In contrast, the Asian Republic continues to mobilize forces along its northern border, citing the accidental or intentional strikes on its territory as justification for entering the conflict.
It's now 5 hours since the first launches, and the sun is starting to rise on the east coast of what remains of the United States. I'm told that in areas downwind of the strikes, the sunrise looks different today. The sky is a strange color, orange and red and brown, filled with dust and smoke and ash. This is not the sunrise we knew. This is a new kind of morning, the first morning of a new and terrible era in human history. I don't know what to call it. Some are already calling it the day after. Others are calling it the end times. Whatever we call it, we have to face it. We have to find a way to live in this new world, even as we grieve for the one we lost.
I want to provide an update on the radiation situation, because this is going to be one of the major ongoing concerns in the days and weeks ahead. According to monitoring stations that are still operational, radioactive fallout is currently spreading across large portions of the northern hemisphere. The heaviest contamination is concentrated around the impact sites, but significant fallout plumes have been detected as far as 500 miles from some detonations. Weather patterns are carrying this contamination across national borders in unpredictable ways. Areas that were not directly targeted are receiving dangerous levels of radiation simply because they are downwind of destroyed cities. If you are in an area that may be receiving fallout, please continue to shelter in place. The first 48 hours are the most dangerous. After that, radiation levels will begin to decrease, though they will remain elevated for weeks or months.
We've just received a message from our team that I want to share. They've been collecting messages from viewers throughout the night, and they told me that despite everything, despite the death and destruction and fear, the overwhelming majority of messages have been expressions of love. People telling their families that they love them, people thanking strangers for acts of kindness, people sharing their hope, however fragile, that we will find a way through this. One message in particular struck me. It's from a woman named Helen in Seattle, And she writes, quote, "I watched the flash from my window and I thought it was the end, but it wasn't. The sun is rising now and I'm still here. My children are still here. Whatever happens next, we had one more sunrise. That has to mean something," end quote. Helen, it does mean something. It means everything.
We are now 6 hours into this crisis, and I want to give you another comprehensive update. The military situation appears to be stabilizing, if that word can be used for such a catastrophic scenario. Both the United States and the Eastern Federation have confirmed that they have ceased offensive nuclear operations. Remaining nuclear weapons are on a defensive alert status only. Conventional military forces are maintaining their positions but not actively engaging. Diplomatic contacts are ongoing through neutral intermediary countries, with discussions focused on formalizing a ceasefire and beginning the process of humanitarian coordination. The danger of additional nuclear exchanges appears to be decreasing, though it has not been eliminated. Several nuclear-armed countries, including the Asian Republic and the Indian Republic, have not yet committed to standing down their forces.
I want to talk about what's happening on the ground in areas affected by the attacks. We've been receiving reports from survivors, from emergency responders, from ordinary people who have found themselves in extraordinary circumstances. In the suburbs of what used to be Los Angeles, a firefighter named Marcus has been working for the past 4 hours to extract survivors from collapsed buildings. He told us that he has saved 11 people so far, including a 6-month-old baby who was protected by her mother's body. The mother didn't survive. In the countryside outside Moscow, a farmer named Yuri has opened his barn to refugees fleeing the destroyed city. He has over 200 people sheltering there now, and he's slaughtered his entire herd of cattle to feed them. He knows he may not survive the winter without his livestock, but he said he couldn't watch children starve.
The casualty figures continue to rise. Based on the most recent estimates, we believe that approximately 250 million people have been killed directly by nuclear detonations around the world. An additional 50 million are estimated to have died from immediate secondary effects, including fires, building collapses, and exposure to radiation. The total death toll is now estimated at 300 million and counting. To put this in perspective, this is more than the combined death toll of every war in human history. This is more people than lived in the entire world when Rome was at its height. This is approximately 4% of the global population killed in less than 12 hours. And this is just the beginning. The death toll from radiation sickness, starvation, disease, and social collapse in the coming months could be several times higher.
It's now 7 hours since the attacks began, and I want to share something that happened in our studio a few minutes ago. One of our producers, a young woman named Grace, came in to tell us that her brother lives in San Francisco. Lived. She doesn't know if he's alive or dead. She's been trying to reach him all night, and the calls won't go through. She asked if she could stay in the studio with us because she doesn't want to be alone. Of course, we said yes. So Grace is sitting just off camera now, waiting, like millions of other people are waiting, to find out if someone they love survived the night. I told her I would mention her brother's name on air in case someone who knows him is listening. His name is Daniel Torres. He's 28 years old. He teaches high school biology. If anyone has any information about Daniel Torres in San Francisco, please try to reach us. Grace is waiting on.
I want to provide some information about the long-term implications of what has happened tonight. Military analysts and climate scientists have been studying the potential effects of nuclear war for decades, and their predictions are now becoming our reality. The massive amount of smoke and dust injected into the atmosphere by these detonations is expected to significantly reduce the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. This phenomenon, sometimes called nuclear winter, could lower global temperatures by several degrees for a period of years. Agricultural production will be severely impacted, growing seasons will be shortened, crops will fail, even areas that were not directly affected by the attacks will experience food shortages as the climate effects spread around the globe. The human population, which stood at 8 billion before tonight, may be reduced by half or more in the next decade, not from bombs, but from hunger and cold and disease.
We've just received word that there are reports of looting and violence breaking out in several areas. In Detroit, which was not directly struck but which lost power and communications hours ago, witnesses say that armed groups are going house to house, taking whatever they want at gunpoint. In Atlanta, there are reports of shootings at gas stations as people fight over the dwindling fuel supply. In Phoenix, a mob attempted to storm an emergency shelter, believing there was food inside. National Guard troops, where they can be mobilized, are being deployed to maintain order, but there simply aren't enough of them to cover every affected area. The social fabric that holds civilization together is starting to fray, and in some places it's starting to tear.
It is now 8 hours since the first launches. Let me update you on the diplomatic situation. According to sources within the State Department, which is operating from a temporary location after the destruction of its headquarters, preliminary ceasefire terms are being negotiated. The key points under discussion include an immediate halt to all offensive military operations, the establishment of humanitarian corridors for refugee evacuation and aid delivery, and the creation of an international monitoring mechanism to verify compliance. The major obstacle is trust. Neither side trusts the other to honor any agreement, and there is no neutral enforcement mechanism that could guarantee compliance. Nevertheless, negotiators on both sides appear to understand that continued fighting would benefit no one, and there is cautious optimism that a framework agreement could be reached within the next few hours.
I want to read some more viewer messages. These have been coming in steadily throughout the night, and they paint a picture of humanity at its best and worst. David from rural Montana writes, quote, "My neighbors and I have been taking turns keeping watch all night, making sure no one from the cities tries to take what we have. It's us or them now, and I choose us," end quote. David, I understand the fear you're feeling, but I want to urge you to remember that the people fleeing the cities are human beings too. They're not your enemies, they're your countrymen. They're victims just like you are. On the other hand, Maria from outside Denver writes, quote, "A family showed up at our door at 3 a.m., 4 kids, all of them crying. We took them in. We don't have much, but we have enough to share. That's what being American means to me," end quote. Maria, thank you. Thank you for reminding us who we can be.
We are now 9 hours into this crisis. I want to provide a status update on critical infrastructure. Electrical power is now unavailable in approximately 75% of the continental United States. Water treatment and distribution systems are offline in most urban areas. Hospital generators are beginning to fail as fuel supplies run out. Telecommunications networks are operating at less than 10% of normal capacity. Transportation infrastructure, including roads, bridges, rail lines, and airports, is severely damaged or unusable in wide areas. The supply chains that modern civilization depends on have broken down. Even if no additional weapons were used from this point forward, the secondary effects of this infrastructure collapse will claim millions of additional lives in the coming weeks.
It's now 10 hours since the attacks began. The sun is high in the sky on the East Coast, though people tell us it looks strange through the smoke and dust. I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've witnessed over these past 10 hours. We've seen the worst of what humanity can do to itself. We've seen cities destroyed, millions killed, civilization shattered, but we've also seen courage, we've seen compassion, we've seen ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of kindness in the face of unimaginable horror. A doctor working through the night to save lives with dwindling supplies. A farmer feeding refugees with his own livelihood. A family taking in strangers. A community coming together. If there is hope in this darkness, it lives in those acts. It lives in the choice to help rather than harm, to love rather than hate, to build rather than destroy.
Let me provide an update on the international situation. The United Nations Security Council, or what remains of it, has convened an emergency session via video link from Geneva, one of the few major government centers in Europe that was not targeted. The Secretary General has called for an immediate global ceasefire and the creation of an international humanitarian coordination body to manage relief efforts. Representatives of the Eastern Federation have indicated a willingness to participate in such a body as have representatives of most other nations. The major holdout is the Asian Republic, which continues to demand reparations for the strikes on its territory before it will agree to a ceasefire. Negotiations are ongoing, but there is growing concern that the Asian Republic may launch its own nuclear strikes if its demands are not met.
We've just received an update on our producer Grace's brother, Daniel Torres, who we mentioned earlier. Someone in Oakland who heard our broadcast and knew Daniel has reached out. Daniel is alive. He was in a basement shelter when the bombs fell on San Francisco, and he survived with minor injuries. He's now helping with rescue operations in what remains of the city. Grace is crying next to me as I share this news. In a night filled with tragedy, this is one small piece of good news. One brother found, one family not completely destroyed. I know that for every Daniel who survived, there are 1,000 who didn't. But right now, in this moment, I'm going to hold on to this one piece of hope.
It is now 12 hours since the first launches. Half a day, the longest night in human history, is finally giving way to a new day, though what kind of day it will be remains to be seen. Let me give you a comprehensive summary of where we stand. Nuclear exchanges between the United States and the Eastern Federation have ceased. Both sides have agreed in principle to a ceasefire, though the formal agreement has not yet been signed. Additional nuclear-armed countries remain on alert, and the risk of further escalation has not been eliminated. The death toll from direct effects of nuclear detonations is estimated at 350 million. Secondary effects are expected to add significantly to this number in the coming days and weeks. Critical infrastructure has collapsed across much of the Northern Hemisphere. International relief efforts are beginning to mobilize, but the scale of the catastrophe far exceeds the world's capacity to respond.
I've been sitting in this chair for 12 hours now, and I have to be honest with you, I'm exhausted, I'm terrified. I've cried more times than I can count, though we try to keep it off camera. I keep thinking about my parents who live in a small town in Vermont that wasn't directly affected. I spoke to them briefly about an hour ago, and they're okay. They're sheltering in their basement with some neighbors, sharing food and waiting. My mother asked me when this would be over, and I couldn't answer her. I don't think anyone can answer that question right now. All I could tell her was that I love her and that I'm proud to be her daughter and that I would call again when I could. That's all any of us can do right now. Tell the people we love that we love them, hold on to each other, wait.
We're now receiving reports of the situation in the Asian Republic. According to sources within the intelligence community, President Huang has agreed to stand down his nuclear forces in exchange for guarantees from the international community that his country will not be held responsible for its involvement in the escalation. This is a significant development that substantially reduces the risk of further nuclear exchanges. With this agreement, all major nuclear powers have now committed to a ceasefire. The nuclear phase of this conflict appears to be over. This does not mean the crisis is over, far from it, but it does mean that the immediate threat of additional atomic devastation has passed. For the first time in 12 hours, we can say with some confidence that no more nuclear weapons are going to fall from the sky today.
It's now 14 hours since the attacks began. I want to share some of what we're learning about the human side of this catastrophe. In New York City, rescue workers have begun entering the outer areas of the blast zone. They describe scenes of almost incomprehensible destruction, buildings that stood for a century, reduced to rubble, streets that were full of life, now carpeted with ash and debris, and yet, remarkably, survivors are being found. People who sheltered in basements, in subway tunnels, in the foundations of the buildings that collapsed around them. They emerge into the light, covered in dust, blinking in the strange orange sun, alive when they had no reason to expect to be. Each one of them is a miracle. Each one of them is proof that life is stronger than death, that hope is more powerful than despair.
Let me provide an update on the global relief effort. The World Health Organization has declared a level 3 emergency, the highest level in its system, and is coordinating medical response across all affected regions. The International Red Cross has mobilized all available resources and is establishing emergency medical stations at refugee assembly points. Countries that were not directly involved in the conflict, including Brazil, Australia, and several African nations, have pledged to send aid and accept refugees. The logistical challenges are immense. Transportation infrastructure has been severely damaged. Communications are unreliable. The scale of need far exceeds the available resources, but the effort is being made. For the first time, the human race is coming together in response to a common catastrophe that affects us all.
It's now 16 hours since the attacks began. We've been on the air continuously this entire time, and I want to thank all of you who have stayed with us. Your messages have kept us going. Your stories have reminded us why we do this work. Earlier, I received a message from a viewer who asked me how we keep going. How do we sit here and report on the end of the world without breaking down? The honest answer is that I don't know. I think it's something like what soldiers describe in combat. You don't have time to process what's happening. You just do what you have to do, and you deal with the emotional impact later. Later, when this is over, if there is a later, I think I'm going to need a very long time to process what we've witnessed. But right now, in this moment, my job is to inform you, to give you the facts you need to survive, and to be a voice of calm in the chaos. That's what I'm going to keep doing as long as I can.
We are now 18 hours since the first launches. Let me give you an update on the casualty estimates. The death toll from direct effects of nuclear detonations has stabilized at approximately 375 million. However, deaths from secondary effects are now accelerating. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Medicine and supplies are exhausted. People who would have survived with proper treatment are dying because that treatment is not available. We estimate that an additional 50 million people have died from secondary effects in the past 6 hours, bringing the total death toll to approximately 425 million. This number will continue to rise in the coming days as radiation sickness peaks and as supplies of food, water, and medicine run out in affected areas.
I want to share something that happened a few minutes ago. We received a message from a man in what used to be the suburbs of Chicago. He said he was a paramedic who had been working nonstop since the attack. He said he had lost count of how many people he had tried to save and how many he had failed to save. He said he was at the end of his strength, physically and emotionally. And then he said something that I can't stop thinking about. He said, quote, "I've seen terrible things tonight, things no one should ever have to see. But I've also seen people at their best. I've seen strangers carrying injured neighbors to safety. I've seen children sharing their food with other children. I've seen doctors working until they collapsed. Whatever happens next, I know now that human beings are capable of incredible evil, but they are also capable of incredible good." I'm going to hold on to that end quote.
It is now 20 hours since the first launches. We're approaching the end of the first full day of what some are now calling the Third World War, though that name hardly captures the scale of what has happened. Let me provide a summary of the global situation. Military hostilities have effectively ceased. All nuclear-armed nations have agreed to a ceasefire. Conventional military forces are standing down. Diplomatic negotiations are ongoing regarding the terms of a permanent peace agreement and the creation of international bodies to coordinate reconstruction. The immediate crisis appears to be passing, but the long-term consequences of what has happened will be with us for generations. The environmental damage, the economic collapse, the psychological trauma, the radiation that will continue to sicken and kill for decades. We have survived the day, but surviving the year, surviving the decade, that will be another challenge entirely.
I'm reading a statement that was just released by the heads of several major religious denominations. It says, in part, quote, "On this darkest day in human history, we call upon all people of faith and all people of goodwill to come together in solidarity and compassion. The forces of destruction have done their worst. Now it falls to us, the survivors, to rebuild, not just our buildings and our infrastructure, but our communities, our societies, our shared humanity. Let us not be defined by the hatred that led to this catastrophe. Let us be defined by the love that will lead us out of it. Let us choose life over death, hope over despair, peace over war. In every tradition, in every faith, there is a teaching that light can overcome darkness. Today, we must become that light," end quote.
We are now 22 hours into this crisis. I want to provide some information about what we can expect in the coming days. Relief supplies are beginning to flow into affected areas, though the quantities are far short of what is needed. Emergency power is being restored to some critical facilities, including hospitals and water treatment plants. Communication networks are being patched together using whatever infrastructure survived. The process of identifying the dead and locating survivors is beginning, though it will take weeks or months to complete. Governments are reconstituting themselves, appointing replacements for officials who were killed, reestablishing chains of command. The machinery of civilization, though badly damaged, is not entirely destroyed. It is beginning slowly and painfully to start again.
It's now 24 hours since the first missiles were launched, one full day since the world changed forever. I want to try to sum up what we've witnessed, though I'm not sure words are adequate to the task. 24 hours ago, we lived in a world of 8 billion people. Now we live in a world of approximately 7.5 billion. 500 million human beings or thereabouts have been killed in a single day. That's more than the population of the United States, more than the population of the European Union, more than all the war dead in all of human history combined. Each of those 500 million was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend, someone's love. They're gone now, and the hole they leave behind will never be filled.
Let me give you the final numbers as we have them at the 24-hour mark. Approximately 400 nuclear warheads were detonated across the globe. 385 million people died from the immediate effects of those detonations, including blast heat and initial radiation. An additional 115 million have died from secondary effects, including fires, building collapses, radiation sickness, and lack of medical care. The total death toll stands at approximately 500 million. This number will continue to rise in the coming weeks as radiation sickness claims more victims as food and water shortages spread, and as the long-term environmental effects of nuclear winter begin to be felt. The final death toll, when all is counted, may reach 1 billion or more. We are witnessing the single greatest catastrophe in human history.
And yet we are still here. Against all odds, against all predictions, the human race has survived its darkest day. The bombs have stopped falling. The ceasefire is holding. People are already beginning to rebuild. In the ruins of cities around the world, rescue workers are still finding survivors. In refugee camps, strangers are sharing food and water. In hospitals, doctors and nurses are working miracles with almost nothing. In homes and shelters and makeshift camps, families are holding each other and looking toward tomorrow. We are wounded, we are grieving, we are changed forever, but we are not defeated, we are not destroyed, we are still here, and as long as we are still here, there is hope.
I want to close by looking forward to what comes next. The immediate challenges are overwhelming: feeding and housing the displaced, treating the injured and the irradiated, restoring basic services, maintaining civil order. These are problems that will require years to fully address. But beyond the immediate crisis, there are larger questions. How do we prevent this from ever happening again? What kind of world do we want to build on the ashes of the old one? What lessons have we learned, and will we have the wisdom to apply them? These are questions that cannot be answered tonight. They will be answered by the choices we make individually and collectively in the days and months and years ahead. The future is not determined. It is created by human beings making decisions. The decisions we make now will shape the world our children and grandchildren will inherit.
As we close this broadcast, I want to read one final viewer message. It came in a few minutes ago from a woman named Jennifer in what used to be the suburbs of Washington, D.C. She writes, quote, "My husband was a congressional aide who was in the Capitol when the bomb fell. He didn't survive. Our daughter is 3 years old, and I don't know how I'm going to explain to her that her daddy is never coming home, but I also know that I have to keep going for her. For the world she's going to inherit. I'm going to teach her that human beings can be better than this. I'm going to teach her that love is stronger than hate. I'm going to teach her that out of the worst darkness, light can still be born." That's my promise to her and to everyone who's listening. We will be better. We have to be, end quote.
Jennifer, if you can hear us, your words speak for millions of people around the world tonight. You have given voice to the grief and the determination that we are all feeling. Your promise to your daughter is a promise we must all make to the children who will inherit this broken world. We will be better. We have to be.
This has been a special 24-hour broadcast of What If News. I'm Sarah Donovan.
And I'm David Hale. The story we have told tonight is not over. It is just beginning. In the days and weeks and months ahead, we will continue to bring you the news of this shattered world, the rescues, the recoveries, the rebuilding, the setbacks, and the triumphs. We will be your witnesses, and we will be your voice.
To all of you who have stayed with us through this long and terrible night, thank you. Thank you for trusting us with your stories. Thank you for sharing your grief and your hope. Thank you for reminding us again and again that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit endures. We leave you now with the sound of silence, the silence of a world that is catching its breath, the silence that comes before the hard work of healing begins. May you find peace in that silence. May you find strength for the days ahead. And may we all find the wisdom to build a better world from the ruins of this one.
For What If News, good night, and may whatever gods or forces you believe in be with you and with us all in the long nights and bright mornings to come. Stay safe, stay strong, stay human. We will speak again soon